Today on More Than Kind, we're talking about breaking through, delightful surprise, and positive variability. Hi there, everybody. I'm Kidwell, customer service trainer, public speaker, and here with you talking today on More Than Kind about positive variability. And we'll talk a lot about what that means. It means surprise. It means to be delighted. It means something out of the ordinary, something away from the script, something that makes you go, oh my goodness, that surprised me, it delighted me. How do we create that? There's a science to it, and we'll get there. We're mostly just talking about breaking expectations. A lot of what I'm going to tell you, some of the references come from a book called The Power of Moments by Chip Heath and Dan Heath. Highly recommend this book. There's a chapter specifically about breaking the script, about taking what people expect and making something better out of it that in a way that delights and surprises them, that brings them back again to you. So a few examples from there and a few examples from my own experiences. One of the examples from the book is a restaurant chain or a coffee shop that I can't pronounce, and I think it's more European, but I think it's Pret a Manger. I don't know how to say that. I'm so sorry, my friends at Pret. I don't know how to say it. But one of the things that this particular company does is they allow their employees, their team members, to give away free stuff randomly at their discretion. That's a very brave thing to do, and a lot of times I don't think you'd hear that in some companies because we tend to, I think not rightfully, I think we tend to not trust our team members as much as we should. They trust them, and rather than have some sort of boring, rote customer appreciation card where you come in and you buy 5 cups of coffee and you get the 6th one free, they just build it in randomly so that about a third of their customers over the lifetime of their customership, they get something for free. And it keeps them coming back. It keeps them delighted. Now, the challenges with it are they put no restrictions on it. So if someone thinks that that person's real nice and deserves a free cup of coffee, well, then they can give a free cup of coffee. If they think, hey, I think that young man or young lady is real cute, I can give them a free cup of coffee. It's not maybe as standardized as it ought to be because you might end up with some spillage, some things where you're giving away free stuff to the same people all the time. They guard against that and they work on it. It's a great tool though, and it's positive variability. I'll give you a personal example of positive variability from my life. I'm coming to you now from Disney Central, from Orlando, Florida. That's where we live, but we didn't always live here. When we lived in Virginia, as we were raising our children, we would come down to Disney World time after time after time after time. And I have some theme park background in my own background, not with Disney, but with other companies. And so the theme park experience, positive variability, is very important. They call it atmosphere. In other words, maybe you're waiting in line and it's a hot day and you're bored because you're waiting in a 90-minute line. And somebody comes up and they're playing the guitar, singing you a song. Or at a theme park I worked at, we actually had a mime that would go around. I'm not sure that was that welcome. He was fantastic, but I'm not sure you want a mime coming up. But that was built-in atmosphere, positive variability, things to delight and surprise you. At Disney World, it tends to be the characters. Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, Aladdin, Sleeping Beauty, the evil stepmother. They're all walking around the park, or at least they used to be walking around the park. Nowadays, if you've been to Disney World, you find that those things are much more scheduled. The variability has been replaced a little bit. So you line up, you queue up to go see Eeyore. If you really want to see Eeyore, you wait in a 30-minute line, and then you see Eeyore. So that's sort of gone away now, the positive variability. But I'll tell you why it's important, and it's a personal story. We would fly down with our kids, and we would come down to Disney World. I think we did it 6 or 7 times. Every time we came down, we spent about $10,000, which represented a large percentage of our annual family budget. $10,000, especially for a young family, was a big deal. We would spend $10,000 to come down, and one particular trip, I spent $10,000. I have one memory. One memory for $10,000. I got to tell you, it was worth it, and it was positive variability that created the moment, created the memory. My daughter just loved princesses at the time. She was about 5 years old, and she really wanted to see Belle from Beauty and the Beast. That was her favorite character, and she just loved Belle, and that was the whole focus of her trip. Well, unfortunately, we'd been there for 5 days or so. We had not seen Belle. There were lines you could get in to go see Sleeping Beauty and Snow White, and another princess in a big tent. We didn't do that because it was a 1-hour wait every time. But Belle wasn't there anyway, so it didn't matter. At the end of the day, at the end of the trip, we are on Main Street doing our other family tradition, which is we bought too much stuff, so now we have to buy a bag to take out on the plane. So my wife is buying the most expensive, happiest bag in the world on Main Street, USA. My daughter's a little sad. So if you've been to the luggage shop on Main Street, USA, you might know there's a little side door there, and it goes out into a little alley that's just off of Main Street. And as we walk out there, I kid you not, I look over and sitting on a bench right there with no one around but one handler, one friend of Belle's that's standing over to the side, there's Belle. And she's sitting there. My daughter runs over and sits on the bench, and I go talk to the handler for a few minutes, and my daughter has 10 minutes there alone with Belle just talking. Amazing, magical. It is literally the one memory I have, and I bought that memory for $10,000. And it was great value because it's a memory from my life and from my daughter's life of something amazing that happened. And it was created through positive variability. It wasn't that Belle was scheduled to be there that day. It was that they just had her kind of out there. Just out there to meet guests where they were. And the surprise was the key. If we had lined up to see Belle, we'd have seen her for 30 seconds, we'd all stood and posed for our picture, and they'd have tried to sell that to us, and maybe we'd have bought it, maybe we wouldn't have, but it wouldn't have had that magical feeling that brought us back 2 or 3 more times after this and spent $10,000 each time to come back and see them. So that positive variability is something you need to build into your business. What are you doing to build it? One more quick example, airlines, safety video. Have to do it. You have to have a safety video. How can you make that positive variability, that surprise and that delight work for you in terms of service? I travel a lot, 3 quick airlines to touch on because I fly these 3 airlines the most. Delta Airlines, with their safety, they tend to do videos. They have screens generally, in all the planes I fly with Delta, they have screens, and they show a safety video. They change it quite often. I'm usually quite impressed. Oh, it's another new video from Delta for safety. The one I remember most specifically is they had people from, memes. They had the guy from Evolution of Dance who's doing things in the aisle, and they've got a bunch of people you would have recognized at the time from viral videos on the internet participating in the safety video. I thought it was really funny. American has probably the slickest video that you'll see. It almost feels like one take. They've built it that way so it feels like their spokesperson that's walking through is doing all of this in one take, which is very cool. Side note, American, when you show that video and I see all this beautiful leg room that you've offered to the people in the safety video, and then my knees are hitting up against the seat, if I had one thing I would change about that, I'd make the seats in the video a little closer together because it always jumps out to me. But it's really slick, but they haven't changed it maybe in a couple years. It's really good, but there's no variability there. It gets the safety work done. It does the job, but they're not delighting and surprising anybody with that safety video. Southwest, you knew I was going to talk about Southwest. Southwest has built this in. This is actually part of what they do. They have a great safety speech usually. Usually it's not a video on Southwest. Usually the flight attendant is speaking, and the people in the aisle that are putting on the masks and putting on the life vests, those kind of things, they're participating. Everybody's having a really good time. And some of those videos you may have seen go viral. One flight attendant was even on Ellen. She went on Ellen because her safety video had gone so viral that she was kind of famous for it. So you might think to yourself, so what? So they have a fun safety announcement. What's the big deal? Well, the big deal is this. It's money. They did a study chronicled in that book, Power of Moments, where they went back and studied what did it matter to our bottom line if someone saw a funny safety announcement. So they went back, they keep lots of data on their passengers, and they found that if someone saw a funny breakthrough special safety announcement, then they were likely to take an extra half a flight per year over those who didn't see a special safety announcement like that. An extra half a flight, obviously you can't take half a flight, that's an average, but over the course of a year, that means Southwest, because of the breakthrough funny service announcements, are making an extra $140 million per year. And that's every year, on and on and on. So over 10 years, they're making more than $1 billion because of the breakthrough funny safety announcement. Think it's worth doing? Absolutely. It means it's worth doing for your business as well. So I can't tell you you're going to make an extra $140 million, but I can tell you that your customers are going to expect that more and more and more. And the important thing is that idea of positive variability, not standardized good, surprising experience. You can't standardize surprise or it's not a surprise anymore. So yes, standards are critically important. You have to have standards, but standardization of the customer service experience, of standardization of surprise is the death of surprise. I'll give you an example. Chick-fil-A, various parts of the country have Chick-fil-A, some don't, but in my line of work, it's a little bit of a cliche at this point to say, Chick-fil-A, it's amazing when you say thank you, they say, my pleasure. You say thank you, they say my pleasure. That's sort of their thing, and people in my line of work go, wow, this is amazing, this is breakthrough, this is surprise. Yes, it was 5 years ago, or maybe even further back than that. Now, it's a part of the furniture. When you go to Chick-fil-A, if you say thank you, you expect them to say my pleasure, so when and if they do, you don't say, oh wow, that was really nice. No, instead, if they don't say my pleasure, you go, I guess they're in a bad mood, they didn't say my pleasure. So they've built that surprise as a standard, so now they have to elevate the experience even more. That's one of the challenges. That's why it has to be variable. Positive variability is important. And Chick-fil-A is doing it, by the way. Here in Orlando, where I live, if you go to Chick-fil-A today, you would drive up and there's people actually out standing at the drive-thru to take your order outside. Then you go up and you pay with somebody else. If they'll ask you, do you want any condiments? And if you want some Polynesian sauce, some Chick-fil-A sauce, and some ketchup, somebody comes running over with a bag. Before you get to the window, they give you your condiments. It just feels like, a little bit to me, like that old drive-thru experience with people on roller skates coming up, taking care of you that way. So they've elevated the experience. It's a surprise every time. I did a workshop just this last week, and so I said, what do you know about Chick-fil-A? And their number one thing they said wasn't how they speak to you, it was they always get the order right. And so go through a Chick-fil-A or go through any fast food place and see what are they doing to create positive variability in that experience. You can learn from that. So what do? Well, you got to just remember a couple of things. You got to remember that surprise is about feelings. It's not about anything mechanical. It's not about anything computerized. It's about human emotion. Delightful surprise is a human, warm, fuzzy feeling. And sometimes in business especially, we have trouble with warm, fuzzy feelings because we think that's not what business is about. We're about Excel spreadsheets and the bottom line. Well, as we showed you with Southwest Airlines, the bottom line can be affected by the warm fuzziness. So you got to work on both things. So remember that it's a human emotion. So what do? Well, a lot of different things you can do, but I would just give you today to start off with figuring out what your customer expects and then how can you break through that script. Now, if you go over to morethankind.com, look for this icon, and I've gone into a little bit of a deeper dive over there for retail and healthcare and for other restaurants and fast food. Some ideas for you and maybe a little worksheet you can go through that says, hey, these are the customer expectations and here's how we can break through. That's there to help you. It's free to go over there to morethankind.com. Just a little bit of a deeper dive for those who want it. Also, please come back and see us on Wednesdays. We talk about personal development. We're going to talk about delightful surprise in your personal life. And then I hope you'll come see us on Friday right here on YouTube to talk about changing the world a little bit. We have a special assignment, a special secret thing for you to go out into the world and do. We're here to help, and hopefully we can change the world a little bit at a time with some delightful surprise this week here on More Than Kind.